Hi, and welcome to this open call in February 2020. So it's open call for tsboc, the secret business of coaching. So every month we do an open call for people in the group. It's Q&A based call. Tonight we've got Debs on the call, and I'm sure others may join us in a few moments' time. So we've got some pre-asked questions in the group which we'll go through. I think, though, it'll be very courteous to Deborah, since she's turned up on time here tonight, to ask her, invite her to ask the question that you posted in the group, Deb.
Oh my
you
God.
remember?
I was just going to say, you're expecting me to remember it.
Let me help you refresh your
two.
Yeah, well, I kind of reframed it, didn't I? But yeah, go on. No, you read it out. I remember the gist of it.
Okay, so your question, you said, appreciating you can never really know the answer to this for sure. Where do you both believe you would be now with regards to building your own coaching business if you hadn't had coaches of your own? It's a great question, Debs. I like the way you've seeded the importance of having a coach.
I've been well trained.
Yeah. Do you want to go first, Rich?
Oh, hello. Yes, go on then. I'll go first. My name's Rich Waterman, co-founder of tsboc with my illustrious cousin, Dr. Chris Joseph. Where would I be? I wouldn't be a coach. Simple as that. So, in more detail, my first coach in this area was, and I will mention him actually later again because we've got another question that relates to him as well, was a lovely man who was also at the time a Tony Robbins coach, trainer, sorry, he's not anymore, David Taylor. What David Taylor, having him as a coach early on, he was the one that told me about the book, The Prosperous Coach. So he was the one that pointed me towards the fact that you could create a coaching business through service, and it was possible to do that. And yeah, it wasn't much further down the line than I was, but it was that people are doing this, you can do it too. And it took me a little while to work it out. I worked with Dave for 6 months. Still hadn't sorted it out by the end of the 6 months, but we made some significant progress, realised the person that was getting in the way was me. I then went it alone for about 12 months. And that was blooming hard. I would definitely give myself a kick up the arse if I could go back in time and say, get yourself another coach. More on the implementation type side of things. And then the other really big turning point with the coach was me and Chris having weekly sessions, because it was that someone else going through it, someone else applying the same principles as me. Showing me, I think, that it wasn't necessarily exactly the way that I was doing it, but it was Chris's flavour of it. So it was almost like this co-coaching type thing going on. Still nearly quit about 2 or 3 times throughout that whole process. That was not just when Chris was working with me, just to be clear, before as well. It's hard. I would actually say, to make this work, you probably need a mentor and a coach. Someone telling you what to do, which is really how to, in my opinion, how to apply the Prosperous Coach. And that is an unashamed plug for what we all do, because we're bloody good at it, quite frankly. And then the other one is having a coach, which is guiding you through your life and how you're applying it, because it's the flavour of it. And it might be the same person, right? It might be a coach and a mentor. If you're selling coaching and you don't have a coach, I'm not sure what you're doing, to be honest. There might be times when you choose not to have one, but generally, if you are coaching and you don't have a coach, it's a bit odd. There we go. That's my answer. You won't ask me to go first next time, because I'll go ranting on again.
All good stuff, Rich. My response. So Rich, the very man on this call opposite me, was a big part in the beginning of my journey. As is true for many, not all, coaches. We enter the profession often off the back of a personal need. So for me, it was a lower point in my life, trying to finish a PhD with a young child, overrunning on deadline and so on. and Rich helped me personally. So I got to receive great coaching, got to experience what it was like actually to have a mirror in front of me. Sometimes quite direct, but always kind. So started from that platform, that foundation of having experienced great coaching, and then Rich actually training me initially in some of the earlier techniques of Robin stuff, gave me a great foundation. And then, like Rich, for a period, I kind of went to my wide orbit and went alone and didn't get very far, really. Yeah, not often packages, individual sessions, and not having continuity with clients. That's important. So it is very much then just them deciding on a spur of a moment, really, at the end of every session or between sessions, whether they wanted to further one. And that just does not work. It's, you know, it's a bit like if you're in a relationship, asking yourself every day, do I want to continue? Not a great question. And for a period, I actually gave up coaching because of that. You know, directly linked actually to not having a coach myself, not having guidance, not having somebody to speak things through, very simply. And then there's been lots of people who have helped me formally and informally over the period, but then getting back together with Rich and taking coaching from him again about 5 years ago, I'd say, Rich. And
that's about that. Yeah.
And the progress being made since then with the business pretty much doubling every single year, way into the six figures now. That's completely attributed to coaching, because you just get the space to speak often to yourself with a witness. And if for a skilled coach, they will allow you to do that, and then very gently just offer the 1 degree shifts, and that's incredibly important. So I wouldn't be coaching, same answer as Rich, if I didn't have the guidance of and the receptivity of a coach. Yeah. Good
question, Deb. Should we do Deb's follow-up question?
Yeah, let's do that. So let me flick back to the document. The follow-up question you had, Debs, was on reflection, what do you think was the most important thing that you've done when you felt like giving up coaching, especially in the early days? Do you want to go first again, Rich, on that one?
No, you go. Let's alternate. Go on. Okay. I don't want to hog your space. I think we're going to give similar answers as well.
Okay. Well, the first answer is having my own coach. And actually, I did give up. I wasn't just thinking of giving up. I actually did give up for a period. There's also another reason why I did that, which I won't go into right now, but it was because coaching wasn't working. I was doing ad hoc sessions with the wrong people. I think there's a few things. Investing in myself is a key thing, keeping my track, not just with my coaching, but also in lots of other courses and training courses. So doing the NLP practitioner course with Richard Bandler, John Lavelle. Richard Bandler is a creative genius. That was significant, doing that course in London with him, really was. Very short story. I remember him having a woman on stage, and she was very much in victim space. And he said to her, would you go home tonight and shit all over your walls? Would you shit on your hand and rub it all over your walls? And she was like, what?
It's a good job she didn't say yes.
And he said, why are you doing that in your head? And it was like, whoa. It was one of the first memories really of really powerful coaching. Really powerful coaching. It was just such a pattern break for that woman that she saw in that moment that she had choice. it's very obvious we've got a choice whether we rub excrement over the walls of our house, and we've got choice as to whether we certainly not initially have the initial thoughts, but whether we put wood on that fire of those doubting thoughts. So that was an incredible piece of coaching. And then Peter Thompson, Simon Coulson, going over to America to do UPW, Tony Robbins, and then my mindfulness training and so on with Breathworks and Virgin Birch. Yeah, investing in myself was the key thing, and continuing to believe in myself. Supportive family really helped as well. Was the main things. One further thing to add is I kept a celebration list. So any comment I had after a session, whether it is an informal or a formal testimonial, I kept those. And that was really, some people call it a brag bag or a brag list. It's not bragging if it's true. It's not bragging if it's true. And those testimonial comments were and are still very true. Just added in a recent one to my website the other day. And it's just really nice to read it and to celebrate that, the work. Because at times when it's tough, and it is very tough building a coaching business, otherwise Rich and I wouldn't have created, 108 videos and 20 hours plus of video content in the online mastermind course that we have. We wouldn't be a need to do it if it was easy. So it's very hard, but it's very, very rewarding. So keeping a record of the reward was a big part as well.
I nearly quit. I think 2 or 3 times. I can't remember exactly. Tend to blot them out, but it definitely was 2 or 3. I think probably 3 then, if I'm saying 2 or 3. I'm never going to claim I was poor because I got a lot of assets from my investment bank days, but I started to get cash flow poor, and the times that I wanted to quit were actually the best times in hindsight. They were the game changers because the hand was put close to the fire, and I started to question, do I want to do this anymore? But of course, the part of me that was questioning, do I want to do this anymore, was ego. And my ego was battered and bruised and tired and exhausted and done. But my heart would not accept the possibility of me giving up my mission of helping people through coaching. And that ultimately was, in all cases, really was the changing point. And it was a decision to get out of my own way, to a realization that I wasn't really applying what I knew, and that I was letting ego come before service of others. And as soon as I flipped that around, say I'm putting service of others before ego, in other words, I'm prepared to accept rejection. I'm prepared to try another dozen ways of generating leads and fail at all of them, and then try a dozen more, that I would take some action as often as I could, regardless of emotion. That I would focus on serving people, that I would set myself targets and aim for those targets and find whatever bloody way possible to hit those targets. So there's a lot of bloody mindedness in there for sure. That's how I dealt with it. And above all, how did I deal with the thought of quitting? I took action. Because if I'd have stayed in thought, I'd have quit. Because it was thinking that took me to the brink of quitting. That's it. Yeah, short answer to that one. I can feel it now. I can feel those moments. And so if you're a coach and you haven't been to the brink, good on you, because I don't know many people that have created a successful coaching business that haven't gone to the brink at least once. It's normal. Just got to stick with it. Hardest business I've ever created. Most favourite one now I've created it. That's it. Oh, maybe I should go second more often, Chris.
Yeah, that's an idea, Rich, isn't it?
Gives me time to think.
You did say about not putting your ego first, didn't you?
That's right.
Give me the opportunity to practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Good questions, Deborah.
Very good.
That's really helpful.
So let's go through them, the list of other questions. So we have one from Daniel Rees-Morgan.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've known Daniel for a while actually, and Daniel is a really wonderful, heart-centered guy. He's a big service-orientated guy. So reading his question actually, and Deborah in fact posted just a lovely comment that just sort of held space for Daniel around this, and he replied in a very positive way. Reading this question actually really hit my heart as well, because I know what it's like to be there, and I know that there are many other coaches that I now coach either one-to-one or within the group mastermind that have felt the same. So the question is how to create leads, essentially. So he says, I've written blogs, made videos, added value in groups, reached out and built relationships, been running a men's group for nearly a year. I feel like I've done everything. And quite frankly, no one cares. I know what that feels like. So, yeah, if Daniel was on the call, I'd obviously invite him in to give a bit further information around what he has done. But just taking the question at face value, what immediately comes up for myself is the only way to create a coaching client is to coach a potential client. Now, I don't know actually how much coaching Daniel has done, so it wouldn't be fair to say that he hasn't done that. But what is fair to say is that if you spend the majority of your time creating content, then you become very good at creating content, because that is what you're doing. You're not necessarily coaching. So creating content can be useful, but only if it's followed up by a call to action. And a call to action is, if this content speaks to you and you'd like to discuss it further and how it relates to you, then call me and we'll set up a conversation. So Steve Chandler, who is the co-author of the Prosperous Coach book with Rich Litvin that Rich Waterman you mentioned earlier, he's got a lovely phrase, and he says that no client is ever created outside of a conversation, ever. And that is true. So any marketing or any content creation work that you do, if it is with the intent of creating a coaching client, should always be followed with a call to action, so that you can move that person into a situation where they're actually speaking with you live. It's the only way that you're able actually to find out what is really going on for them, what is their most pressing problem for them at the moment, and then to help them to work through that. And if you do that deep enough, and sometimes I have had no's, as all coaches do, in the past to a coaching proposal. And if I hold my hands up, at times it's because I hadn't coached deep enough. I didn't find out what the problem is behind what the presented problem is, or what the goal behind the goal really was. Didn't go deep enough. So there's a few things that show up in respect to Daniel's question. Whether actually there's enough life coaching being done, whether it is deep enough, and whether then you're actually making that second call to action when you have served a client, and that is, do you want to know what it would look like to continue the coaching that we've already started? Yes or no? And the final piece to the jigsaw here, again, don't know in Daniel's case what the situation is here, but it's whether the people that, if you are coaching and you're coaching deeply, it's whether those people are actually in a position to pay you. Because you can coach all day long and you can coach really deeply, but if that person just doesn't have the money to pay you, then there isn't going to be a coaching contract again with it, no matter how darn good you are. And believe you me, I've played that game as well. So to flip this around, the guidance for me in this respect would be to, first of all, back off the stuff that you're doing that you're feeling resentful around. So there's a certain energy of resentment around Daniel's question. So stop doing it, because you cannot create a client from a place of resentment. You can only create a client from a place of love and acceptance and creation. So stop doing shit that you don't love doing. End of. Start doing shit that you love doing. So knowing Daniel a little bit, I know he's a heart-centered guy. I know he loves serving people. Find somebody in your network or in the network of your network. There'll be definitely one person. Reach out, make a genuine offer to serve them, explain why you'd like to do that, invite them to the conversation in the right context, and then just serve. And do that, and especially do it with somebody that you know has some money, and just start from there. Whether it is a small, 100, 200, 300 pound contract for a few hours, and work from there. That's it. That was my impassioned response. Rich.
Sometimes there's a disadvantage to going second. All of that. My initial reaction when I read the question was exactly what Chris just picked up. It's the resentment, and I get that. I've definitely lived in resentment during my coaching business on multiple occasions. Quite frankly, no one cares. Find someone that cares about something, whether it's solving a problem that they've got, or ideally creating something important to them. Have a conversation with them, and then if you find a group of people that care about something, create something where you can speak to a group of people. So, like, start with the who cares bit. There's a dangerous coaches, which is I'm going to broadcast my stuff, and you know what? There's going to be people out there that's going to like my stuff, and then they're going to want to work with me. And it's like, yes, there's an element of that, people finding out about what you're doing. I would suggest that it's smarter to engage in dialogue with people, or even just observe dialogue in groups or in meetups or wherever it may be, and go, oh, that's interesting. And do I want to have a conversation with them there, or do I want to use that as a seed to have a conversation with a wider group of people? Be really clear about who you want to work with, because if your message is too generic, like, running a men's group, and I know there'll be more to it, Daniel, so I'm making some assumptions here. Like, who's it for? Who's your ideal client? What problems are you solving for them? What possibilities are you going to create for them? The more specific you can be, the more likely you are you're going to create leads. Otherwise, you end up becoming Woolworths or poor man's Amazon, like trying to do everything for everyone. That won't work for creating leads. Again, I'm not making assumptions about where you're at. I'm talking to all the other coaches that are watching this video. There is no magic pill. So as Chris said, whether it's blogs, videos, lives, live talks, networking, whatever it is, you got to find the stuff that you enjoy doing and do that really well, because then you will shine at a 10 out of 10. You won't go, oh, I feel like I've got to do a video today. It feels like a 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10 is never going to create you a conversation, right? You feel like you've done everything, you haven't. So you've written in there, and this is not me being harsh to you. Again, this is about coaches in general. You run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 experiments that I can read. So blogs, videos, added value in groups, which actually is a smart thing to do if it's a good quality group. Reached out and built relationships, very smart thing to do. Run a men's group. You've done 5 experiments, you need to run more. This is all about creating leads, is all about running experiments in a quality way. Let me express myself this way. Let me express myself this way to that group. Let me express myself this way to that other group. Let me express myself a different way to that other group. There's so many experiments you can run, and you just got to just keep going until you find stuff that sticks, basically. But the consistency is, if you're doing stuff that you love and lights you up, you're more likely to create impact with whoever you're interacting with. You don't need a lot of leads, so you're better off starting with individuals than you are with groups, for sure. When you get good at it and you start to really understand your ideal client, then you can start to interact with groups or broadcaster groups, because people really get that you understand their problem as a group, and more importantly, you are still talking to them as an individual within that group. Okay. That being said, so quality experience of you developed for a quality audience. There are so many experiments you can run in that space. It's a big part of the course that Chris and I have created. That being said, all of this, your number one way of creating leads that are consistently works for every single coach ever known is called circles of trust, which is people that know you really, really well, or experienced your coaching. Every single month, you say to those people, by the way, this month I'm going to gift X sessions. Let's say 8. I'm going to gift eight sessions. If you know this sort of person, I'm more than happy for you to gift them a session with me. It's called a gifted referral. It's totally non-sleazy. It's not a requirement. What you're actually doing is giving someone in your immediate network an opportunity to have a conversation with you. And that's coming back to exactly what Chris said at the start, which is you having lots of conversations, coaching conversations with a certain type of person. And do you know what? Your best chance of creating a conversation is through people you already know. So, look, leads is the hardest part of the game by a mile. Selling's easy compared to leads. If you've got hang-ups about proposals, that's very resolvable. Leads requires work. I was working one-to-one with my apprentices. It took me 3 to 4 months to work out exactly where should be creating leads, and then it exploded. So it requires some work. Keep going with that expectation. Keep going from a place of service, not from I want to create a conversation that's going to create a client, because intention's huge, right? So Chris is 100% right about the resentment piece, and I get it, mate. It's just like, park it, back to service. Am I in service? Right. Now I can put out that blog. Now I can put out that video. Now I can contact that person. Am I genuinely serving this person? If the answer is not a resounding yes, do not act from that space. Come back to service and heart space, and then go out. Rant over.
And having said all of that, it is also true that coaching isn't for everyone. So giving yourself permission to stop or to take a break, sometimes that's the kindest thing to do as well. And there's no shame in that. As I shouted out earlier, I took a break from it. and now, both myself and Rich, we both took breaks, and we both now got 6-figure businesses. So keep that as a possibility as well. Yeah.
Do not underestimate the amount of emotional resilience you need to become a successful coach. It is hard. It is hard. And what's great about it is, though, if you're prepared to go on that journey, the transformation in yourself, let alone your business, will be worth the effort. But it's hard. There's no two ways about it.
The final piece for me is just to reflect a reminder on the call to action. We're going to be making a call to action at the end of the call tonight. It's important. It is an offer of a conversation as a call to action. An offer of a second conversation as a call to action. An offer of a proposal as a call to action. Very, very important that you make that. A recommendation is look in the Story Brand book. Very good book. And that's a key emphasis by Donald Miller in that book, is that businesses, including coaches, do not make enough calls to action to their potential clients. So we can be spouting out information all day, but if we don't actually make that call to action, which basically goes along the lines of, hey, would you like a conversation? What's going on for you? So curiosity and call to action, 2 big things. Yeah. Good. Let's move on then, Rich. We've got a few to get through.
Yeah. Come on, Chris.
Okay. So the next question. So thank you, Daniel, for that. It's a great question.
Great question.
And if you've got further questions in response to watching this video, then post them on the comments. Right, Dave. Dave is a member of our mastermind group and has been for probably about 18 months, 2 years now. He's got a question, and it's around space. He says, have you got any examples of coaches who hold space really well and resources to access, in brackets, other than Chris? That's a kind of inside joke for those of you watching who are obviously not part of the mastermind yet. Then there's a joke that I hold a lot of space, and I think Rich made a comment a while ago. I'm very expensive in regards to my fee per word, but I pointed out to him I'm very reasonable in respect to my fee per space. Rich, any thoughts?
Yep.
Do you want to share them?
Yep. That was me practicing space. Yes, so people that are great at holding space. My original coach that I talked about earlier on, David Taylor, he was very much of that school of, he might only ask 2 or 3 questions in an hour. Amazing at holding space. And it's not necessarily, to make it clear, like holding space doesn't mean like you're a better coach. It just means some people, their style is really good at holding space. And what holding space enables you, the clients do, is just to explore safely by themselves, or sometimes actually deliberately not safely, but it gives them space to move and create, and sometimes that is needed. So actually, I think a great coach can hold space, but can also sometimes drive and helps more with more energy and questioning can change it. But anyway, other people who are great at holding a really nice emotional space. There's actually someone else, well, apart from you, Chris, obviously, there's someone else on this call that's really good at it. Which is Deborah Harvey, who is phenomenal at holding a loving space. It's interesting how when people hold spaces, the space has a different flavour. Deb's space is a loving space, so she didn't know that she was going to come on tonight, and I would embarrass her, but it's true.
I know. I'm glad I'm in the dark. Thank you.
Resources to access. Linda Thompson. Listen. Be present. So whether you do need to use mindfulness meditation or whatever the techniques that Chris knows much more about than I do, be present, listen, don't be uncomfortable with silence. In fact, quite the opposite. It's a lovely space, particularly if someone's clearly engaged in a very emotional moment, or so it could be a light bulb's come on, or it's a game change transformation. You really embrace the space, because that is that's giving the brain ability to process and work through it. So it's interesting. It's interesting. Linda's just come on. So if I talk about space, right? So I mean, just give him credit, because he's mentioned already in the question. Chris is phenomenal at holding space, like just not having the need to say anything. That's powerful. Deb's space is interesting. Deb's is a more loving space. Linda's space is probably more like my space, not MySpace, whatever that defunct app we had online. Linda's space, I think, is more intentional. Like there's an energy to it. There's a spark to it. Yeah, all good. And actually, funnily enough, the other coaches in a circle mastermind are really good at holding space. And actually, I'll give a credit to someone who's used to be in a mastermind and left us a lovely testimonial, Sam Wilde, phenomenal coach at holding space. Just really loves the hell out of people. Yeah, so I won't add any more than that, because I know we're going to run way over the hour if I keep nattering. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that one.
Good. Nice distinction as well around different qualities of space. Yeah. And, I think Dave asks for other examples, immediate ones of coaches that are more famous at the moment, at least, than ourselves, are Michael Neal. Michael Neal is actually very good at holding space. Recommend looking at Michael and the Inside Out Revolution and so on. Rich Litvin is also good at holding space, so is Steve Chandler as well. I think in terms of techniques, there is one that's really interesting. There's one whereby the thing is that the tongue, the movement of the tongue leads speech. So if you give the tongue something to do, you can just slow that down or diminish that. So you can do what Rich is doing now, or you can push the tongue. One thing is to pull the tongue out, but you get strange looks on a call when you do that. Especially if your client is like in the depths of some serious story.
Yeah.
about their own life, which you've at least got to pretend that you're listening to, right? so you can push the tongue to the top of the palate, okay, and that can just help quieten the thoughts and the drive to speak. That's a useful technique. Another one is mindfulness, and by bringing your awareness, basically the mind is an active thing. It's what it is. It's active. It's always on. It's always looking for patterns and so on to protect us. When somebody else is speaking, then often the mind is whirring away and looking for what we can say next to actually be either be clever or to be powerful as a coach or whatever. What can sometimes really be useful from a mindfulness perspective is actually to bring the awareness into your body. So notice how what your client is saying. Notice how that is landing in your body. Maybe the body is kind of soft around it, so you feel it's true. Maybe there's a sudden kind of tension in the stomach. You feel that they've said something that is not true, that is not in alignment. So the message here is, rather than just go into speech, go to other experiences in the body as a way to engage your mind. That also is a way to help become very intuitive, because the body is a very intuitive sensor for what is true, what's integrity, what isn't, what's out of alignment. And so learning to listen to the body is a very powerful quality of a deep coach. And that gives you the ability to focus your energy on something other than speech, basically. And a couple of other things to add here. What's quite a cute thing that was pointed out to me recently is that silent and listen are anagrams of each other. So you can't listen unless you put silence in. So that's a nice little thing to remember.
Never noticed that before.
I think I came up with that one.
Did you? Maybe.
Yeah, I think it was me.
Was it you?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you credit for that one.
I'm taking it.
Oh, how funny. I've never noticed that before.
Mm.
And the final thing to add here is, very often, not always, but very often, people do not need solutions.
Mm.
They are simply using the space that you provide to allow them to listen to themselves. There's such a power in them speaking out aloud, having the ability to listen to themselves within that kind, loving space, and having someone simply bear witness to that process. Michael Newton talks about that as the lamppost effect. Somebody left their place of work every evening at 5:30, walked across the street and spent half an hour speaking to the lamppost about their life. There would be a massive benefit in that. Add to that just a couple of very pertinent questions, and you've got a very powerful coaching experience. Very often we try and add too much to it, and with that, I'm going to shut up now. Yeah. So that's my answer and response to that. Good question, Dave. Since Linda's joined us on the call, let's move to, I think Linda asked a couple of questions as well. Let's move to Linda's question. So I'll remind you, unless you've got them in front of you, Linda.
I don't at the moment, no.
Okay. Let me remind you then, and then maybe if you want to add anything, you can do that. Sure. You've got a question around objections, and it's in relation to, it's actually in relation to managers' questions. So yes. Manoj is another member of our mastermind group. Let's do managers, and then yours will then obviously follow on from that.
I think that makes sense.
Okay, so managers is around hourly rate, and he says, what do you say to a prospect? I must admit, I smiled at this one. To a prospect who questions your proposal by comparing their hourly rate with your hourly rate. I loved Sam Wilde's response to that, which was basically, fuck off.
Maybe a bit harsh.
which is a bit harsh, but you know, sometimes I'm not a big user of language, colourful language, but colourful language, especially when you don't use it that often, is actually a fantastic pattern break, which then makes that potential client realise how ridiculous that question is, because you're comparing apples with bananas.
Yeah.
A great response to that is, why is your hourly rate so low? Would you like coaching around that? And actually, you know, as an aside around hourly rates, you know, Dave posted a video in our group the other day, in the mastermind group, around how just making a small shift in his client's hourly rate over a year, I think added about 12 grand's worth or 10 grand's worth of value, something like that, to that person's business. So hourly rates are important. So that coaching of your potential client around the hourly rate is actually not an insignificant question at all. That's my kind of initial response to it. So if you get anything to add to that one, Rich?
Yep. Very quickly, I had a chiropractor, and I would go in and see my chiropractor, and he'd spend about 10 minutes sorting out my back at the time. And I'll charge him I think I pay him about 30 or 40 quid to doing it, which is quite a high hourly rate. And it was great. Happy with that. Got my result, got my outcome. Other clients would complain to him saying, I only got 10 minutes. And he went, it's great. Think of all the time I've saved you. You can go and use that time to do other stuff you want to do rather than having your back fixed. And a lot of them still didn't see it. I don't really care about hourly rate. What I care, when I talk with my potential clients, I want them to know I want them to be clear on what outcome they want from working with me and what the value is to them of creating that outcome. My coaching should cost less than that. That's all I'm saying. So if they're starting to get into the phase of questioning hourly income, first of all, they've gone way too left-brained. They've gone way into logistics and calculation stuff like, nah. What is your dream? What is the possibility you want to create? What's that worth? It should be a very big number. My coaching's less than that. Do you want to do it? That's basically it. Yeah, if they want to create 100 grand a year business, I'm going to not charge them 100 grand a year to do it. It doesn't make any sense, right? But if they got down to the detail of, my hourly rate sounds a bit high, it's like you either got the wrong person in front of you, you've not coached them deeply enough at all. You're not going to win from that game. It's like you basically might as well just, as Sam, you might be more polite than Sam, but you might as well say, shake hands and go. And sometimes I might even call that out. I said, if we're talking about comparing hourly rates, we completely missed the point of this conversation. And I might even use that as a loop to go back and recoach. Yeah. So, yeah, that's it. We could spend hours talking about this stuff, but yeah, that's the gist of it. Yeah.
We could, but one thing I do want to highlight from what you've said there was an excellent answer, is that it goes back fully to my response to Daniel's question, and that is, if you want to, let's say, if you want to create a £10,000 coaching contract, then you have to be speaking with somebody who's able to leverage that contract with you at a value that's far higher than £10,000.
Yep.
And so if you're speaking to somebody who cannot do that, you're not going to create that contract. And that goes for 10 or 100,000 as well. Okay, or 1,000. Right, let's go then to Linda's question. So what you wrote, Linda, was on the back of what Manoj said, it's always useful to learn more about what to say to the various objections that arise, not just money, but time, including it's not the right time. They will consider it in a few months. They have already invested in something else. They are seeing a therapist, so don't need coaching, etc.
Did that make sense? I mean, I was just kind of thinking of this when, yes, I'll just ignore you, Rich. No, I was like, when I saw, Manoj write that, and obviously we've been discussing those kind of things in the mastermind, but I thought there's other reasons that people always come up with, that there's different strategies to deal with. And I know that ones that I've had recently have been, particularly around time. So, they've got other things going on, or there's been an investment. Someone recently, they just put a lot of money into something for the daughter, so can't afford it right now. Or, sometimes I need to check with someone, or, I'll do it in the new year. There, all of those objections really. And in a way, I don't really like to phrase it in that way, because that's, you're thinking sales objectives, but I thought it was the easiest way to convey really what I was thinking about when people are they want to, and then there's something getting in the way really. So if you've got some thoughts on some of those.
Yeah. I object to your question about objections. Seriously, Linda, I call it out as to whether it's true or not. So I'll say, so if it's time, so is that really true? Is it really true you don't have time for coaching? Or could it be true that you are actually prioritizing other things ahead of coaching? Because everyone's got the same amount of time in the day. So I'm just going to say, and I actually will be this honest, I'll say, is your objection about time true? And sometimes they give me a what the fuck face, and I'll just go, or is it that you're prioritizing things higher than this, and then I repeat the dream that they've just laid out, or are you saying that other things are more important than that? Because that's what it sounds like to me. So I'm just going to be very more honest than anyone else in their life. I've just invested a lot of money in my daughter's blah 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 blah, and I went, is that true? Is it true that you don't have any money left? Or are you asking me, is there a way that we can create a different sort of contract to enable you to start coaching with me, given that you've just had a big outlay of cash flow? Sometimes I'll say, could it be true that you actually just don't want to coach with me? Call it out. Because it's better to serve them that way rather than them sort of feeding you platitudes and pleasing and going, maybe in a few months' time. And it's what they really want to say is no. I said, do you actually want to say no? Because that's fine.
Yeah.
If someone genuinely has stuff coming out that is I can't do it now. I genuinely cannot do it now. And we've talked through it and it's okay. So when would be a good time for us to put something in the diary to talk again? So what we don't want to do is maybe in a few months, we can talk again. And then you go, oh, okay, yeah, okay, well so we'll probably talk in a few months then. That doesn't work. By the way, most people, when they say not yet, it's nearly always a no. Nearly always. So you're better off saying, okay, you're happy to put a date in the diary for us to talk again. Or if someone says, I can't do it yet, and you say, okay, well, but I do want to work with you. Okay, what needs to happen for you to be able to work with me? Because if you're serious about it, let's just see is there anything we can do now to make that happen? If not, you've got to wait for your house to sell. Okay, so when should we speak next? Because you'll have a better idea of whether your house is sold or whether it's about to sell. So basically, we can talk about all the other things, objections, but for me, it's calling it out is it true or not, and trying to create as much certainty for them and you as much as possible without leaving things to land a maybe. And it's kind of people use the expression badass, which I don't really like, but it's kind of time for you as a coach to step up and go, I've really got to serve this person now.
Yeah.
Because if it smells like bullshit, it probably is. And the best thing you can do as a coach is serve them by calling that out and saying, this is what I'm seeing. I might be wrong, and you might want to end the call right now. That's fine. But what I'm seeing is this. I think we should talk about it. That would serve them. Like, it's genuine service to that person.
Yeah.
I've gone on a rant about this. I know we haven't got a lot of time. The one thing that I consistently see in people when I used to speak at wealth creation events was they were totally happy living in the land of maybe and could be and might be, and they'll drag you into it as well. Don't do that. Don't play that game. That is the one way to stay poor.
Yeah.
For you as a coach and them as a potential client. Right. I'll shut up now, Chris. Sorry. I'll get very, very aggy about this.
Yeah, there's a couple of things to add. The first thing is never object to the objection. They've said it. Oh, that's expensive. Yes, you're right. Oh, that'll take a lot of time. Yeah, you're correct. So don't object to the objection, otherwise you just go in to engage the ego. So first of all, honor the objection, otherwise they wouldn't have said it. So it's come from some place within them. The question is, where has it come from? Has it come, and all communication comes from one or two places. It comes from either a place of love or it comes from a place of fear. So if it comes from a place of love, basically they're trying to say, I don't want to coach with you, I'm trying to soften it, then find out if that is the case. And there's no better way than to ask them, as Rich suggested. If it comes from a place of fear, like, oh, I don't think I can afford that, and it's not actually about them being able to afford that, it's about them in their head having thoughts around that outlay, putting them in a certain position, whereby they might have to do extra work, or might have to cut back on some other things in their life. Then you can coach them around that, because it's in service actually to coach them around that, because fear is the biggest obstacle that shows up to all of our potential actions. So work out if it's from love or fear. And we can also really identify whether it's coming from love or fear is to remove the offer. Often people will then suddenly change when they realize they're going to lose something. They want to kick the can down the road because it serves them to keep that potential offer on their horizon. It doesn't serve the coach at all because it's an energy leak, and maybe it's an awful energy leak. So remove the offer and say, yeah, okay, maybe this isn't for you, so I'll remove the proposal and see what the response is to that, because often people will then suddenly move into action when they think they can actually lose an opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's not tactical, it's just in service of them to help identify whether their objection is coming from a loving place, because if you remove the offer and it's coming from a loving place, then they'll say, okay, yeah, I think it's right that we don't work together. But if it's from a place from a fear, then they might say, oh, hang on a second, let's maybe talk about how we can do it in a different way, or yeah. So that's my response. Yeah.
Terrific. Thank you.
We've got a few minutes left.
Good question.
How are we doing? So Linda has another question here, and also
actually, this might be quite a nice one just to finish off briefly. And it was, again, we've had so many learnings in the mastermind from both of you and your learnings, but for the group, maybe a quick one from both of you to finish us off about what's the biggest things you've learned in your, I think that's what I wrote, isn't it? Something about the biggest learning you had.
I'll go
2 minutes each.
Yeah. It's not about me. It's not about me. It's so easy with all of the thoughts that we have as business owners and coaches about how to grow the business, how to create leads, how to create clients, and so on. You end up thinking it's about you. It isn't. And that's my biggest learning, is when I stopped, and it's more of a verb stopping, because I sometimes fall into the trap of making it about me again. But when I make it about the person, the human being in front of me, and fall into curiosity, into love, into finding out what's really going on for them, giving them space to explore that and to express that, and then asking loving questions, even though sometimes direct, as you've experienced, then it's about them. You know, you're making them the hero in their story, and you're the guide. You're not the hero. If you try and make yourself the hero, you're on a hiding to nothing. That's an ego-driven place, and people might look up to you and respect you, but they won't want to work with you.
Yeah.
But if they feel the hero in their story and they see you as the guide, then they very well might want to work with you. Yeah. Rich.
Going back to my O-level German, which I was actually quite good at. Qualität, nicht Quantität. Quality, not quantity. Gave myself permission not to think I should be sitting at my desk all day and slogging my guts out in my coaching business. It's like you need to bring intensity, you need to bring integrity, you need to bring honesty, transparency, and you need to bring as much of you as you can to your coaching business, whether it's creating leads, whether it's delivering coaching, whether it's proposing. If you can bring all of you, and that could be in intense bursts. That's the way I like to work. When I gave myself permission to create my coaching business my way and doing the things that I love, funny enough, I was actually prepared to work harder at it because it was fun and it was enjoyable. And obviously fun's high on my values list, funnily enough. It might not be for someone listening to this video. Bring the values that are important to you, bring the emotions that are important to you, bring that into your business and run the business your way. There is no template. In fact, quite the opposite. The more you are you, unapologetically you, the better. Yeah, that's the one thing I learned.
Wow, very good, both of you. On my laptop is 2059.
Yeah, we got one more question from Kerry, so we might squeeze it in. It's quite a quick one though, I think. So, but that was good. No, two really good questions, Linda. To be fair, I think you show promise.
So let's for the sake of completion, let's do Kerry's. My voice is going at the end of this cold I've had.
Yeah.
Okay, she's got a question around client contract. Consider talking about how much detail and what detail to include in client contract. So for a package contract, basically she's been working on a non-package approach so far, where she's just invoiced for one consultation per time, etc. Moving to a package, she's asking what to include really. So, 3, 4, 6 months, do you get full payment up front? How is it structured? Do you set up automatic payments in PayPal and so on? That's the gist of the question. I can speak to this briefly. Yeah, there's a big importance to moving to package contracts. It's, in fact, from my experience, having done both, it is really the only effective way to work with a client, because you're not forcing them to make the decision at the end of every session. Put it like this: if you invest in the stock market and you have to make the decision every single week whether to continue to invest in a share, that would not be a good thing, because the price goes up and down, but over the trend over the longer term is either rising or falling. So you look at longer term trends. So actually having a 3-month minimum, I have one 4-month contract at the moment. Normally it's a 6-month minimum to 12 months. So every 6 months at the minimum, normally I'm having a conversation around a renewal with a client. So they're making a value assessment over 6 months. So packages really do serve the client because everybody goes through oscillations. In terms of how you structure them, normally payment up front, but sometimes, particularly if a business is paying for a contract, cash flow is very much, expenditure is very much done on a monthly basis for businesses. then sometimes it is appropriate to have a monthly payment. The key thing with payment is that the payment method must ensure the engagement of the client. So if you have to move to an upfront payment to ensure that engagement, and often the client will actually go for that, even though they know that they could arrange a monthly agreement with you, they will often go for the upfront because they understand that that gives them more commitment and they don't have to worry about the fee once it's done and settled. You can have a contract, and I suggest you do that with your client. I don't know if it would stand up in a court of law, the coaching contract that I use, but that's not the intent. In fact, if I felt it needed to, then I shouldn't take on that client. The contract is an agreement contract, whereby you have basic things like turn up to sessions on time, giving adequate notice for any change of session time, agreements around what fee you pay and when you pay it, and so on, how you coach, whether it's live in person or over Zoom. Those are the key things that Kerry needs to include in a contract. PayPal, the level of fees that Rich and I now charge, it rarely makes sense for us to take payments through PayPal because of the significant fee that they charge. That runs into hundreds, if not thousands, for me if I were to do that. So I don't. So it's usually direct bank transfer, or for international clients, there's a very good piece of software called TransferWise that gives very good rates to the person transferring the money, and you get the full amount in sterling without any fees taken off as well. So it works well for both parties. Very clever. They don't actually transfer the money; they just move it from their account in the coachee's country, and then they move the equivalent amount from the TransferWise account to your account in your country. So it's very clever. They don't actually move it across borders. Rich, do you want to add anything to the contract question?
Yep. Unless you are a Harley Street specialist with an amazing network of contacts, you're never going to build a coaching business doing one-off sessions. It's just too much client creation.
Yeah.
I had quite a successful phobia business, but I wasn't earning huge amounts of money from it. But it was just like always looking for new customers. It's just not worth it. As Chris said, you're not serving people in short sessions anyway. Even if I cure someone's phobia, there's then okay, now what's possible for you question. That's a 3-month conversation, at least straight away. So I agree with that. Client agreement. I've got one in front of me. So let me just give you a really quick overview of some of the stuff that I might inhabit, just to give you an idea. Commitment to standards, being on time for sessions, what the rules are around cancelling sessions. They might have to do homework or work on stuff between sessions. I would expect them to do that. As Chris said, number, duration, mode of sessions, the fee, how it's payable. I have a recommendation to journaling in there. I have a piece in there about what law covers this contract. Realistically, is never going to go to court. And in mine, I've got a GDPR data protection piece, because in the UK we need that now. So that's that piece. Yeah, it's not pay as you go. Even if it's a monthly agreement, it's never pay as you go, right? So it's not like, I don't fancy it this month, or can I pay late this month? No, you've got a standing order in place, or worst case, you have got a Stripe or a PayPal thing going on. Again, I don't like the fees either, but if someone's paying me monthly, they set up a standing order to do that. So it's like every month on the same day, it's going to come out. It helped. All the stuff we talked about, Chris and I have talked about, it's actually all for the benefit of the client.
Just to add to that, Rich, really important point that if you're watching this call, it could save you thousands, is to actually on the invoice capture the fact that it is a 6-month or a 12-month contract, and this is payment 2 of 6. So that helps distinguish the fact that it isn't a pay-as-you-go. It is a payment program for a longer-term contract. Put that on the invoice.
Keep the agreement as short as possible. People will default on them. It happens. It ain't worth chasing it in court. Move on. Find the next client. But agreements are helpful for clients because it sets out somewhere in black and white what standards you and they are showing up in the relationship. And anyone out there that comes from my sort of background and Linda's background, which is more of an intervention type background, which is bang, 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 thinking, what would we talk about for 3, 6 or 12 months? Comes back to my favorite saying, which is coaching is not about fixing stuff. Coaching is about creating possibility. I would like to have as long as possible to work on that, please. Not one session. That's it. There we go. Not too far over, are we, Chris? Do you want to talk a bit? You're going to talk a bit about the program.
Yeah, let's say a few words about that. So, especially, you know, there'll be people who are watching this video on record as well, playback. So, as you might be aware, Rich and myself, we run tsboc, which stands for the Secret Business of Coaching. There are multiple levels in which you can get involved with us. There is this group, and if you get value from this, then that's great. And you know, please apply it and share your wins here in the group with us as well. It's great for us to see that people are listening and applying this stuff, irrespective of whether you become part of anything else with us. We don't mind, but we do really appreciate if you apply and share your wins with us, or questions as well about what's showing up when you're applying the guidance that we're giving here. So there are a couple of ways to get involved. The first is the online program, which actually we're going to be rebranding, renaming as the online mastermind, because that's what it is. Because it's not just an online program in the sense that you get some videos and then it's bye-bye, good luck. It is the exact opposite of that. Yes, you get access to a full 12-module series of videos that takes you all the way through creating a coaching business. It takes you from what to look for in yourself as the coach, what to look for in potential clients, how to create leads. You know, it answers Daniel's question that he asked tonight in a far fuller way. In fact, there are 2 modules on clients. Some, probably off the top of my head, I would guess maybe 15 videos on that one topic itself, each of them 5-10 minutes long. There is the double module on the actual service that you're giving, the coaching that you're giving a potential client. And then there's a module on closing the loop, this coaching cycle loop, which is 2 modules on the proposal, actually, as well as module on the business admin and so on. So it's a very full course. You get that. You also get one-to-one sessions with a tsboc coach. Now, at the moment, if you sign up at the moment, you get one of those sessions with myself or Rich. You might not want that, and that's cool. You can have one with, or you have 3 50-minute sessions, and you can have those with a tsboc coach of your choice, or actually several of them. You have one session with each if you want to. And then you get 2 one-hour calls per month, which is a Q&A for the community. And that's why we are calling it a online mastermind as opposed to just an online course, is because you get real-time help in those calls. You get come on, you ask questions. It's a smaller call in the sense it's just myself and Rich and then the people in that community. And you get a separate Facebook group as well. So you got full support there. There is a structural change happening at the end of this month. So the 1st of March, the program that you'll see on the landing page will change, and the amount that you will need to invest will change as well. So it will change. So currently it's at 1997, so just under 2,000 for a 4-month course, which includes the program. And all of the calls and the one-to-one calls in the Facebook group that I've mentioned. That investment after, from the 1st of March onwards, will change to 3,297. So be aware that your investment will increase by £1,000 from the 1st of March. So if you want to engage with the program in its current format, then you need to sign up before the end of February. Anything to add, Rich?
Very nice summary. You always have lifetime access to the videos. Okay, it's just really how much support you want to have you actually want to have as long support as possible, in my opinion. Nicely summarized, Chris. Let me be very direct. If you got to the end of this video and you've watched an hour and 12 minutes, let me serve you by being direct, okay? If you're in this group, you will not progress by being an observer. You need to interact with our posts. You need to watch the videos. You need to watch the content videos. You need to come on Q&As, and you need to be as active as possible. Why? Because then you're hanging around people that know how to make it work. So if you're just going to sit in the group and observe, you're better off just leaving the group. And that's just me being kind to you, okay? You can get there. You can get there, okay? It's just harder work. Doing it free is harder work. It just is, right? If you got the money, Chris and I know it works. The only reason it wouldn't work was if you bought the course and didn't do anything with it. So this is why we got the guarantee, which is if you buy the course, do the work, show us you've done the work, and it hasn't worked for you, or you think it's rubbish at the end of the course, we'll give you your money back. Okay, so the risk actually is either you think we're going to run off with the money. Yeah, we don't do that. We're not going to do that. The risk would be you buying the course and not doing it properly. If you're really smart, you do the course, you smash the course out, you bleed me and Chris dry of all our knowledge and content, and we would love it if you did that with practical questions. And then you come and join our Inner Circle Mastermind, which Linda and Deb are on, and Linda and Deb are also two of our coaches. Right, we've got two others at the moment that we're using as our tsboc coaches. Why? Because they know the stuff, they know the content, they're applying it, and they're really good coaches, like world class, proper world class. So that's me being direct. It's like I'm just trying to serve you, basically. Just make a decision. Just make a decision. I didn't get into coaching to make money from coaching. I got into coaching to help people. This is, for me and Chris, us helping coaches is the ultimate expression of that, because the amount of impact that we can have by helping you to get over the line is potentially massive. That's why we do it. Not to make money. Making money is nice, but it's not why we do it. Rant over. No, very nice job, CJ. Very clear to me. And that's good. Well, I do know what the course is anyway, but I think it was clear to them as well.
Well, yeah. Out of, we've got, I think it's 75% of the original mastermind members are still with us in version 5 of the mastermind. I think that's significant. And also what's significant is, I'm coaching at the apprentice level of $80,000 at the moment. So I think it's smart to put yourself around people who are coaching at that level, because there are distinctions that you just cannot see at the beginning of your career that Rich and I see easily now. And we love to share with you. So to create the investment of 2,000 back is really a no-brainer if you engage. So if you do need a conversation around it, then that's cool. Reach out to myself or Rich. We'll have a conversation with you. We'll answer any questions. There's actually no commitment whatsoever to anything beyond that. If you need that, reach out. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. You spent an hour and 15 minutes watching this video, unless you cheated and went to the end.
Is there anything that you, Debs, or you, Linda, want to add? This is a bit risky for myself because this is unscripted. But
I'll just finish Let's finish that one piece, if I may.
Yeah.
So if you've watched it all the way through to the end of 1 hour, 15 minutes, you've actually separated yourself from most people in the world, because most people wouldn't watch it. So then my next question is, what's your next step? You decide. Right. Now Deb's going to say nice things about us, so we scratch this out for 2 hours.
We just cut the recording if we just cut the recording if they say something that is not conducive.
So I was going to say, so obviously, Chris, because you were talking about your journey particularly, but so that I can vouch for the fact that Chris, I was one of his 40 quid an hour clients many years ago now. And I think I was your first package paying client, wasn't I? A long time ago. So I can say for me, that made a big difference in how I engaged with what we were doing, actually. So and I can remember the first time that I offered a package, and I found that really uncomfortable. But it does make a difference. It does make a difference in how people commit. So, you know, yeah. So I've had the experience of both sides of that.
You're still here, Deb, as well.
Oh my God, I know. What am I doing?
And I'm still here as well from the beginning. And I think
I'm still trying to grow a beard.
Yeah.
I think, you know, in terms of, you know, people listening who are thinking about buying the course, I think they're, you know, as Rich and Chris have both said, it really is a no-brainer, you know, if you want to make your business work. And I think it's kind of two key things for me looking at the course is, you know, the distinctions that they both have made and the learnings, you know, it's stuff that you would take years to learn, because it's the nuance of language, or it's the nuance of how to make a proposal, which essentially is, you know, you can coach all you want, but you've got to be able to make the proposals as well. And I think that in terms of that value is massive. But and being able to watch those again and again and again, but also just the support, you know, of being in part of a group and having the access to everyone else. And it's one of the reasons I'm still here you know, after all of this time, is that I know that although I could do it, and Debs and I actually have talked about this as well, although I could do it on my own, I'd much prefer to do it in a hugely supportive group with access to people that have done it before and have done it successfully. So, you know, that I can just go from that place and learn. So I would say do it.
Thank you very much, Linda and Debs.
Is that to share or do we get one each?
Well, let's see how many sales we get. Good. Hey, Chris, enjoy leading that.
Yeah. So thank you all for your questions. Thank you for the people who posted questions in the group ahead of the call. Hope you enjoyed the call if you're only live. Hope you enjoyed the call if you watched the recording, and just decide on your next step and take it. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.